think we're streaming.
Think we're good?
Good morning.
Morning, Nate.
Morning, Nate.
Hi.
I think you got it, sir. It's told me on my screen.
Yeah, I think so too. Usually I see it
Oh,
and I mute myself, but it told me that the video is private, so I couldn't do anything else. So we're just gonna assume that we're streaming.
okay.
Yeah,
let's
it's
call
showing
the-
live. Mhm.
Are we good, Margarita?
Yeah, it's showing live. Mhm.
Okay, very odd, but okay, we'll just roll with it.
Yeah. Let's call to order the November 2nd, 2023 Northgate Redevelopment Advisory Board meeting. We will start with roll call. Is that you, sir, or is that Margarita?
Yeah, it's Mark Adams,
Here.
Nate Levinen,
Here.
Mike Alley,
Here.
Scott Cantonwine, Deacon Lucas.
Here. Scott is here but can't operate his mute button.
Oh, okay. Mike White.
Here.
Okay, we got them all.
And Jared's here too. Can I get a motion for the approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Approval of the agenda. Can I get an approval for the minutes from August 3rd? Motion.
Mike Alley, so moved.
Scott
Second.
Hampton, 1 second.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Agenda, agenda approved, or minutes approved. No public comment. Jump right in here. Aaron is here to tell us about the Silverton Road project update. Morning, Aaron.
Try to share my screen here, so. Everyone able to see this map?
Yes.
So, I think it's been a couple months since we were here to chat about the Silverton Road project. So, kind of forget what we shared last time, but we are still moving ahead with the project. So, this map kind of shows some of the pieces that I believe has been probably added since the last time we were here, at least formalized. I think we talked through a few of these last time, but so the project on Silverton Road, it started as a bond funded pavement R&R project, which is the red, kind of the red background in this map. So there's essentially from 17th Street all the way up to Fisher. Now you'll notice there's a little missing chunk of the red here from kind of the Williams intersection up to Beacon. And the reason that's missing is the city paved that chunk as a part of the 2008 Streets and Bridges bond. So that segment of roadway is a much newer paving condition than the rest of it. So this red is the bond funded pavement R&R. And some of the additional stuff that's been added to that, and I think the piece that you're probably most familiar with is the intersection improvements at the 17th Street intersection. So that's this green area here. It's really more of a T. Right now we kind of show it as just like a green chunk in both ways, but it's really more than that. And that's the piece funded by the North Gateway URA. So it'll essentially rebuild the traffic signal there, new ADA improvements, basically bring that whole intersection up to current standards, make it nice and new, and also add the left turn lane. That was kind of the key there. So that's a big piece of the project. So that'll be with the bond project. And then all these other little pieces you see are sidewalk infills. So these kind of light colored green, sorry, not sidewalk infills, sidewalk replacements. So along Silverton Road, there's some areas of pretty poor condition sidewalk. We went through and we identified a whole bunch of locations, probably more than double what you see here. And what we landed on is an attempt to fix really one side and make it ADA compatible along the northern side. So that's where these came from. So these northern ones will come out of the bond bucket for sidewalk replacement. These southern two segments here would also be funded by the North Gateway URA. Sarah, I think have you brought the group up to speed on those? She's shaking her head, yes. Okay. And then the other piece within the area that's North Gateway funded is a pedestrian crossing right in front of the Marion Health facility. So right now there's a Chariots bus stop and shelter in front of that facility, and there's a strong desire to put an enhanced pedestrian crossing there. And then Chariots has said that they would actually move a stop to that location as well. So basically make it so there's a safe crossing of Silverton Road, because it's a really long ways from the signal at 17th up to the signal at Lana, and that's a pretty central location. And that's, the Marion County Health Facility is a big draw for that pedestrian crossing. So
Will you do a cutout or a pull out for the bus there?
no, we won't. Chariots typically is not in favor of pullouts because they have so much difficulty getting back into the traffic. So a lot of times when there are pullouts, they don't even use them. They like to stay in the bike lane or in that travel lane so they can pull right back into traffic and keep rolling. So. But good question. I don't know if that's what you wanted to hear, but that's
Well, no, I mean, if the goal is to improve flow, that doesn't improve flow. That hinders it. So that's why I was just wondering if that was something that I didn't know what the standard policy was, and if that was something that Chariots determined or if the city determines.
Yeah, it's really Chariots. We've built pullouts in the past around town for Chariots, and a lot of them that we've built in the past sit unused, unfortunately, because for whatever reason they've moved a stop, or they don't want to use it. They do use it on some higher speed roadways. I think there's one on Mission Street that they do use, just because of the speed of the roadway. But generally, Chariots is not in favor of them. So then I guess moving up the map, there's this orange piece here. So what was identified there? There's a large sanitary sewer main that runs through there. It's called the Market Street Interceptor. It's essentially flowing north on this map, is sideways on the left side. So the Market Street Interceptor comes up Evergreen, turns down Silverton Road, and continues down Lana to Portland Road, and then it continues over to what we call the East Salem Interceptor, a big line that essentially feeds the sanitary flow up to the Willow Lake wastewater treatment plant. And what we discovered here very recently is this line's it sees a lot of H2S, which is off gassing from the sewage, and it basically corrodes the line. So we're going to do a lining project in front of this work that puts a liner in there. Normally we can do liners pretty non-destructive and with little disruption to the surface. That's kind of the point of them. But in this case, since the line's so big, we have to open some of the manholes up, and we have to do a pretty extensive bypass pumping effort. And since Silverton Road's such a high trafficked area, we'd have to bury that bypass line just right below the surface, real shallow, right? So we want to get that work done in front of the pavement R&R, so it's the disruption's done and out of the way. So that's what that piece is. We're basically trying to address the area within the project. We recognize that the line needs additional work beyond that, but we can come back at later dates and do that. So that's kind of why you see that segment the way you do. And then the other one on here that I guess we haven't talked about, maybe I can zoom in here a little bit, I don't know if that helps folks, is also a pedestrian crossing at Sedona. So this is one we went after grant funding for. So you see here it says SRTS, and what that is that Safer Routes to Schools. It's an ODOT program that'll fund that crossing, but it'll get built with this bigger project. And what they identified is, as most of you probably know, there's the schools here on Lansing, lots of school traffic. You get a lot of crossing here at the signal of Silverton and Lansing. That's where the school crossing guard is. but there's a lot of students that also come down Sedona and cross to kind of, to disperse to this other area of the neighborhood versus coming up at Lansing. So that's just providing another route for folks to cross Silverton and hopefully provide that safe crossing.
Another one of those walk up, push the button that like you've got on Portland Road.
Yes, exactly.
Kids enjoy those. Kids, that's like pushing every button on the elevator. So you're again, they're talking about flow, and just I know you're aware of those things. I'm just going to make my comment that that is kind of like pushing every button on the elevator. So
yes, understood. We did do counts there while school was in session. It was pretty surprising how many school kids do actually cross there. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's a pretty heavy usage. But you're right that the flashers will be going off quite a bit. So that's kind of the overview of the project.
I've got a question. Last meeting or way back when I was here, you were talking about widening Silverton Road from the fairgrounds down to Lana Avenue there, and you were debating which side of the road to widen to. Can you update me on that?
I think that if I believe the discussion might have been around the Silverton at 17th intersection, so that's where the widening would have been. So
I thought it was moving past the fairgrounds down. And the question was, would businesses be impacted? So I guess that's what I'm looking for the answer to.
Yeah, fair enough. So one of the things that we've been asked to look at by the bond subcommittee and some of the members of the council is to evaluate a road diet on Silverton Road. So we're looking closely at that right now. And why I bring that up is it would impact how this intersection improvement looks, right? So the main piece of this intersection improvement was to add a left turn lane.
Correct.
So if a road diet is to be done, it would kind of naturally create that left turn lane in this area. There would still need to be improvements, but it would have much less impacts on the adjacent properties and the businesses. So we are currently evaluating that pretty hard, and it looks like from an operations perspective it will work. So essentially it takes the road cross section from the existing 4-lane cross section to a 3-lane cross section, so 1 lane in each way with a center left turn lane. And why that works a lot of times is in today's state where you got the 2 through lanes in each way, you get a lot of folks stopping in the through lane trying to make left-hand turns, and you get a lot of rear end collisions. And when you create that left turn lane, it allows them to come out of traffic and still let the 1 through lane flow. So it actually provides some pretty good safety benefits in the right areas, and it looks like this one will work pretty well. So not a definitive answer, I guess, to your question.
Yeah, no, very good. Thank you.
That's what we're working on right now, and that's what we're looking at. So we're trying to work through those before we really get too deep in design and have to start anything over. So we do have a design consultant hired. It's West Tech Engineering, local engineering firm here in town. They've completed the survey work, and we're kind of working through some of those concepts of like the road diet right now and what that would look like.
Do you have a planned start date?
So the construction, so the red piece is as a part of the bond, that was always supposed to be a 2025 pavement R&R project. So that's what we were shooting for, is to come in 2025, do the construction, get out. So as this has grown to a much bigger, complex project, it's looking like that's going to span 2 summers. And what really drove that is this orange work right here, the sanitary sewer CIPP, which CIPP stands for cured in place pipe. And what happens on a project like this is that we have to do that right in the middle of summer when the flows are the lowest, right? So, sanitary flows often are impacted by rainfall and stormwater getting into the pipes through whatever reasons. So in the wintertime, sanitary flows peak. In the summertime, they go down to their lowest flow. So in order to be able to bypass pump that large pipe, that pushes a summertime construction, which really means we probably won't be able to get all this other work done in 2025. So we'll come out in 2025, start that, probably work some of the ADA improvements through the winter, 25 into 26, and then do the paving piece in the summer of 2026.
And so does that also hold up the intersection at 17th and Silverton?
Well, we would likely, this is a lot more work here than the pavement R&R piece. So we would likely start this in 2025 as well. We'd want to get that kicked off and going. It does need a new traffic signal. Right now, traffic signal equipment has extremely long lead times, some of the longest lead times we've ever seen. Poles and cabinets are like, I think right now they're saying 36 weeks out. So, we'd want to get that stuff ordered, get it going. We'd probably start the improvements there as well. And we don't have that entirely figured out from a schedule perspective, but some of it would be a little bit up to the contractor, but we would place some restrictions on them to make things logical, make it so they couldn't tear this up on day one and let it set for 2 summers. We wouldn't want that to happen. That answer your question on that one?
Yeah. Sorry, somebody called my phone and it kicked me off.
Oh. Did you hear the answer?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So that's where we currently stand with this project. Any other questions I can field?
Anybody? I get a question. This might be a Sarah question. Is the money that we had set aside for this part of this project, are we gonna have enough money with the cost of everything kind of going up?
Yeah, so the board might remember, although it was back in, I think February, and then we talked about it again in March or April. Initially, when we had sort of gone through maximum indebtedness and identified all of our projects, we had gotten some updated cost estimates, but granted that's 2018, 2019 numbers. We threw in inflation. We threw in 3% inflation. Obviously, that is not what's happened. So when we went through the budget process, Aaron had already provided us some updated numbers at that point, and we ended up putting in another 3.5 million, just because of the additional complexities. And then we also at that point had decided, we basically are splitting the cost of the sewer upgrades, just because they will have an improvement to the URA and to future development and all that kind of stuff. And so we threw in another 600 to help compensate for that as well. So at this point, we look pretty good. There has, and I think one of the conversations when I mentioned we talked about it in either March or April, at that point, we had the conversation that sort of the bond projects had come out, they'd gotten narrowed down. We were going to be able to sort of package up our 17th project with the bond, which means we're getting a lot more, but it also means, there's sort of this can URA kick in a little more here or there to get more for your money. And so that's where we had decided to pull some of those future Pine Street extension dollars to help cover for some of the pedestrian crossings and things like that. So that instead of just having the 17th intersection and then going 5 or 6 blocks and really never having anything, and then having all these great improvements, we could make it, a complete project. So at this point, I'm not looking to ask for more funds to go to this project, but Aaron and I have had conversations about, where do we think the numbers might lie? And then obviously the other thing we brought up is there is a future bond project that's tied to Portland Road and infrastructure projects. And so, what I've mentioned to the board is, yes, we have sort of our list, but it's also an organic list. And, as these questions come up, that's where we decide, hey, yeah, we had money set for quote unquote the Pine Street extension. That's not happening. So that's sort of the first future pool of funds that we're kind of pulling from to cover. And then if we end up needing more funds on other projects, that's where we kind of decide what's the higher priority. And those are the things that I would bring to the board, but I don't expect having to ask for more funds other than what we've already discussed at this point. But until design's done and until we go out for bid, I mean, we won't know 100% either. So we think we're being really conservative and putting enough in there, but you know, we'll kind of have to wait until we can go out for bid and know 100%. But at this point, I don't expect to come to you and say, hey, we need 2 million more or something like that.
I've got a question associated with that. How much of this project can be done by city crews and how much of it is sent out to bid?
This project, due to the size of it, would all go out to bid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron's going to be out there pouring pavement. You're going to see him.
Go for it.
Times are tough. Now, I guess I will share is I do know that our operations folks have on their list to pave wherever we stop from the 17th Street improvements to the tracks. I think that was slated to happen like next summer, and we said, "Whoa, time out! Don't do that. Let us make our mess, and then you fill in the gap." Versus, you know, picking a distance and then it's too short or too long. So that will be city forces after this is all done. They'll finish the paving from where we stop to the railroad tracks. All right. Anything else?
Any more questions? Well, thanks, Aaron. Appreciate the update.
Yeah. How do I stop sharing, Sarah? I lost my button.
And the next thing we have, well, I'll give it to Robert here in a sec when he can share his screen. Hopefully he has a great update about our Welcome to Salem sign. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick introduction. I'm the city's park planning manager, and I'm in the community services department. And this is a project that I've been working on for longer than I care to admit. But I'm happy. I think I have some good news to share with you all today. And I'm going to just start with a quick introduction. We are talking about the replacement of the city entryway sign on Portland Road near the intersection of Hyacinth. And you aren't aware, I'm sure you all are, but it's located right where that red marker is on the map there. So as you right after you get off the interstate and drive toward the state capitol. I'm going to start with a little roadmap of what's happened in the past few years, just to kind of catch everyone up. This project came to me in late 2019 with a concept that was Mark Pictel had done some community outreach, and perhaps some of you were involved in that. A community artist had generated a concept, and I had a lot of community buy-in, and I worked with that community artist, a community member, to refine that concept for the past few years, but it has been done in several phases. So beginning in early 2020, as the pandemic was starting, we began formally developing the replacement sign design. We hired a consultant, and they did a lot of the work for us in terms of developing construction documents. We've hit some roadblocks along the way. So on our path to where we are today, the first one was encountered after that consultant had completed their work in mid-2021. This is a little embarrassing, but we, after developing a concept for the replacement city entryway sign, we went to our own planning desk and said, hey, we would like a sign permit to replace our own sign. And the answer was, oh, our code does not allow you to replace, there's no way to permit it. It's not that we couldn't get it. We couldn't get a permit, but a permit was required. So that was a very interesting situation. And it put the project on hold for a little while as we had to amend the city sign code to allow ourselves to post signs welcoming the community to our city. And that occurred in early 2022. And then once we overcame that barrier, we began working with ODOT to obtain a permit from them, because the location of the sign is actually right-of-way controlled by ODOT as part of a state highway, and they need to permit any work that's done in that area. And we were surprised they had quite a lot of feedback on the concept and some concerns about the content of the sign and also about the lighting and how it was posted. So we've been working on revisions to the concept for some time now. And this summer we were able to submit revised concepts to ODOT, and they approved those on September 1st this year. And so now we are moving very quickly to get the project installed this winter. So that's it in a nutshell. But I'm going to show some slides to kind of show how the sign concept has evolved over time. When it came to me initially, this is the concept that was generated by the community member, featuring there in this there at the top was a LED lighting strip to light the signs. The lighting would be actually on the sign. Also at the top are Western Meadow monarchs, a little early for me, I'm sorry. The state bird. There's also some Oregon grape up there at the top of the state plant. There's some fir trees representing the state, also hazel nut and a filbert leaf, salmon, and a canoe with the term "Peace be with you." So there's a lot of symbology on this sign, a lot generally having to do with the fact that the city is the capital of the state, also that the word Salem means peace. The last thing I want to highlight is "She flies with her own wings" is a state motto. So again, a lot of symbology and statements that have relate to the state. One of the first things I identified with that concept is that the canoe was a little problematic from a cultural interpretation perspective. We wouldn't want to put that kind of symbology on a city sign without consulting with the tribal governments that the city has a relationship with, and that process is quite involved. So I advise that we should probably remove that element just to make sure the sign could happen within 5 years per se. So that was the first thing we addressed, and we replaced that symbol with a cherry branch, again representing that Salem is also known as the Cherry City. This is the point where in 2020 we hired a design consultant to help us advance the concept a little bit more. And the result of their work is this here, just a little bit more detail of what the sign was to look like. Again, the lighting on the sign, all those elements I had previously mentioned. The colors there, I'll just touch on briefly. The frame and the symbols on the sign are gold, so they'd be powder coated gold. The blue on this version is the state blue, so on the state flag. And the word Salem is lifted off of the sign a few inches to give some effect. When you drive by it, it'll pop a lot more. ODOT had some concerns with some of those elements. And again, the colors have changed here a little bit because we have a different designer working on it, but it is still gold. The frame is still gold. But now we have the city blue, and we've also simplified some of the symbology to make it more about Salem, less about the state, addressing concerns from ODOT. Also, the lighting was removed from the signs. The lighting is now on the ground. I'll talk a little bit about that in one of my next slides. But a lot of the symbology has remained. We have the cherry branches and the Western Meadow the birds the state birds have remained at the top there. And we've kept the statement that Salem is the capital of Oregon. Here are some of the plans that we've submitted to ODOT for approval. And on this image, you can see we're gonna have ground lighting in front of the sign. Our Parks Operations Department is gonna fabricate custom cages to prevent vandalism of those. This is an image of Riverfront Park where we have basically we're just gonna replicate what we have already at Riverfront Park, and it's been successful for several years at preventing vandalism.
Bob,
Here.
or Rob, excuse me.
Yes.
I couldn't see it on here because it was small print. What's the elevation from ground to the bottom of the sign?
Yeah, from the bottom of the sign to the ground is 5 feet, and that is the maximum height ODOT will allow it to be.
That's perfect for graffiti.
Yeah, and we would have preferred it a little bit higher, but again, state has some administrative rules, and we're bounded to the size and the height of the sign, and so we're at the max here on both regards. This ODOT also requires that the sign be on what are called breakaway posts. So in the event of someone having a traffic accident and hitting the sign, this element of the design that would break away would hopefully prevent the loss of life. That's the idea. And the sign could be replaced, obviously. I just want to highlight one more thing, and then I'll open it up to questions. We're gonna rehab the site. It doesn't look fantastic right now. We definitely use some love, and we're planning to do that. The trees behind the sign, Our pine trees that are diseased and not doing well, we're going to remove those and replace those with cedars. So those should be really attractive new healthy street trees and behind the sign. We're going to be planting a lot of Oregon grape as well to kind of deter people from hanging around and loitering around the sign, while also making it very attractive, and some other native plantings as well. So here I'm gonna end it up. Although the content of the sign has changed in this image a little bit, this is still a relatively representative perspective of what the project will look like, and we're really moving toward delivering it this winter. Kind of what's going on right now is, now that we have the permit, we have received a bid from a contractor to do a portion of the work. We're organizing our parks operations staff to do other elements like remove the trees and do the landscaping and irrigation rehab. And then the last component that's underway right now is we're contracting with a artistic welder to actually fabricate the sign. And so once we have those various components locked down, we'll be able to develop a really well-informed schedule, but I'm anticipating that we will have this work completed kind of mid to late winter this year.
Again, the overall size of the sign?
Yeah, so it's going to be 5 feet high and 8 feet wide. I mean, that's the largest we're allowed to have the sign.
Okay, I'm in the sign business. I have a very serious concern about vandalism. 5 feet high is not going. Are you going to put any graffiti on there? What are you going to do?
Yeah, so it is going to have a graffiti resistant coating, so we'll be able to hopefully abate most of the graffiti that will be placed on the sign. I want to back up the sign area. The size of the sign itself is 5 by 8, and it's going to be 8. Let me back up. I don't want to misspeak. It's going to be 5 feet off the ground. So from the surface to the bottom, the sign will be 5 feet.
Right. Yeah. No. City code on signs is for any building downtown is 7 feet off the ground. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that according to their codes is 5 feet off the ground. So, you know, I'm not going to argue with the people there. I'm just saying that we need to be anticipating problems, and that this is a powder coated sign, a powder coated aluminum, you said?
Yeah, I don't believe it's going to be aluminum, but yes, it is going to be powder
or steel. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Well, that'll make cleanup a little easier. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
What did the cost come in at on this project?
Well, we're still kind of gathering those estimates from the various forces that will be working on this project. I will say we're anticipating that we're going to stick with the original budget. We have about $44,000 to install the sign, and it looks like that's potentially going to be adequate. There is also a potential that if we have some cost overruns, we will take some savings that we had from a playground replacement at Wallace Marine Park and transfer some of those over here to this project. Those savings, those funds were top funds, and essentially the board may know this project is top funded. So we're just transferring over some of those funds. We're not sure that's necessary at this point, but it's kind of a contingency in case we don't have enough funds.
Excellent. Any other questions?
I just want to comment that
ahead,
if
Nick.
the drawing on the screen, the Portland Road perspective is a very attractive presentation, and it would be just darn delightful if it turned out like that.
That's our intention. Hopefully we won't disappoint you with that.
I think you'll have smaller cedar trees to start with.
On day one, yes. So this is more kind of a illustration of what it will be maybe 5 years after the installation, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. And I appreciate the work resurrecting and staying perseverance, I guess, on this. But one question I have: do you know how many other entry welcome to Salem signs currently are in the city of Salem?
Oh, I don't want to misspeak, but there are approximately a half dozen sites that are either in some shape an entryway sign. So I think of a couple just off the top of my head. We have one in West Salem on Wallace as you enter. It's on Wallace Road, and then there's one on Front Street, I believe it is, when as you drive, or it might be River Road.
River Road, yeah.
Yeah, as you drive between the two cities of Kaiser and Salem. And there are sure some others that I'm forgetting right now.
Great. Okay.
But there was one on South Commercial as you enter off of I-5.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Robert, for staying on this for so long. I know it must have been kind of hard when you go to the city and can't get a permit for something for the city.
Like sometimes, you just gotta have a good sense of humor and just be persistent. That's the big thing.
You know how that is. Excellent. Any more questions for Robert? Anyone?
Nope.
All right. I do want to take a minute. Hey, everyone, if you weren't here, Margarita is new. Say hi, Margarita.
Hello, everyone.
She will be our new person, right?
Yes, I'll be assisting.
Yep.
Our next meeting.
Sarah, what do you got for us?
So the only big thing I have that I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of is we have 3 board members whose terms are, unfortunately, on my end, I say unfortunately. For them, they might be like, yay, I'm so excited. Their terms will be ending. So Mike White, Mike Alley, and Mark Adams will all be leaving officially our board at the end of December. As everyone might be aware, if your position is not filled, you are allowed to voluntarily continue hanging out with us for fun until it is. We are starting to outreach to folks about vacant positions. So if you know of anybody who would be a great fit, you can send them my way. I'll also be sending everybody the link to the application. It's a simple online application that they can fill out. It's my understanding that the committee that kind of goes through all the applications is meeting on December the 5th. So if you do know of anybody that would be a good fit, I would say make sure they get their apps in the next couple of weeks, just to make sure there's no technical issues. And then to those who will be leaving the board, I will be touching base with you in December, especially if we have not filled your position, to see if you're interested in hanging out a little while longer. No pressure either way. But my utmost gratitude and thanks to the 3 of you. It's been fantastic to work with you, and I hope I have the option to continue working with you in other ways in the coming days, weeks, months, years, all that fun stuff. But you will be very much missed, and your time here has been very much appreciated.
Thank you. It's a good board. I've enjoyed the time. Unfortunately, as most of you know, the family property, my brother sold it this summer, and it's moved on to a new future. And so I will be moving on also. And but I do appreciate the logic of this board and the foresight and the staff's work with everybody. It's been a joy, and I've served on many boards that have not been this this smooth. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Mark.
And I will say, Mark, we are working with your new property owner. So
Good.
Hopefully we can help him do some cool stuff.
Yeah, I have no idea what he's got planned, but we look forward to good things there.
Well, nice meeting you all. Can you move to adjourn? If you don't have any more comments.
I would urge you guys to volunteer if they don't fill your seats. It's been great having you, and your input is great.
And you only have to be off the board for 1 year,
Yep.
I will say, and then you can come back, because Nate has been graciously volunteering, and I've already told him he can now apply and officially be back on the board. So, you don't have to leave us for long if you don't want to.
We put our trust in Nate. He's got it covered.
Nate can't leave no matter what he does.
Yeah, Nate's not
somehow we
leaving.
just kind of keep pulling him back in.
This is sounding a whole lot more like home, you know.
That's why you
I'm
can't
getting-
leave, you know?
I'm
You just
getting
miss
this
everyone too
limited
much.
set of instructions.
Well, do we have anything else, Sarah? No other updates? Pretty much that was it, right?
That's
Okay,
it, and we'll see how things play out as to whether or not we do a November, December, or if we give you guys sort of a quarterly break.
Okay. Well, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank
seeing you
you.
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. See ya.
Mark,
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
good to work with you.